Pokemon is a kid's game. How many times have you heard that? That comes up a lot in Pokemon discussions, whether it's about things like the difficulty of the games, the anime maybe not being as dark as people want, stories in the games not being as dark as they want, all kinds of discussions. Eventually, someone at some point will say, Pokemon is a kid's game, and that is very true. It is a game that is made to be enjoyed by everyone, and that includes people like you and me who might be older, well, assuming you're older, I don't know your age, but it also includes people like my nephews, or my cousins. I have younger cousins who actually play Pokemon, and they're, in elementary school. Yet, even still, the Pokemon games do get pretty dark, and there are a lot of instances of death in Pokemon, and given that it is spooky month, we gotta talk about that. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lumiose Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're talking about death actually occurring in Pokemon. This does happen a lot, and I'm not going to be obvious and say, oh, the Lumiose ghost girl, well, she's a ghost, so that means a girl died. I'm talking about events where we know how they died. I'm talking about those things. Obviously, there are a lot of ghosts in the Pokemon world, so we do know that death happens, so, if you would like, you can check out a video where we talked about some ghosts that appear in the Pokemon world, but today we're not talking about that. Today we're talking about just straight up death. So we'll begin with what I think is potentially the saddest death in Pokemon, and that is this old man that you meet in Anistar City. When you get to Anistar City, there'll be this old man who talks about how he's, very lonely, and he'll ask you to leave a Pokemon to keep him company. And so if you do that, he will tell you that he's having a great time with the Pokemon and everything, but after you beat the league, if you go back to Anistar City, there's no one there, and there's a Pokeball in the middle of the floor and a letter where the man basically thanks you for your time, and it's basically revealed that this man passed on, but you made his life very happy. You made the end of his life less lonely by giving him a friend to, comfort him as he goes through this. And man, that's a gut punch. I mean, that was a very sad thing to read, but it is also a very sweet story to read too, and it's a cool way where Pokemon allows you to directly impact the life of just a common person without saving the world or doing something high stakes. I really like this quest. Hope they do more in the future. Next up, we have Marowak. And I know I said I wasn't doing ghosts, but this is different because we actually know how this Pokemon died. I'm not doing just ghosts like as in, hey, that's a ghost so someone died. No, this is a Pokemon we know how it died. When you get to Lavender Town in Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, Let's Go Pikachu, Eevee, Fire, all the Kanto games, except for the ones where you can visit it in Johto, you will get to the Pokemon Tower, and you climb to the top of it, and there's a ghost that will ward you off. When you have the Silph Scope, you will basically learn that this ghost is actually not a ghost-type Pokemon, but is a ghost of a Marowak, a ground-type Pokemon. And basically, this Pokemon is wanting to protect its little baby Cubone, and it was killed by Team Rocket. There's actually a very sad cutscene for this in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but it's also a very sweet cutscene. But yeah, just wanted to touch on this because that Marowak was killed. Team Rocket did not knock it out or catch it or anything like that. They killed it. It died. That's what happens when you get killed. You die. Next up, we have a really fun case, and that is the Loyal 3. So the Loyal 3, for those of you who maybe have not played the Teal Mask, the Loyal 3 actually died. Hundreds of years ago, the Loyal 3 came and fought a friend of Ogerpon's and took Ogerpon's mask. So Ogerpon came down to the village and she killed them. She did not defeat them, again, did not knock them out. Talks about how the villagers thought that the Loyal 3 laid down their lives to protect the village from Ogerpon. So laid down their lives, that means death. And sure enough, these Pokemon were built a shrine, a kind of grave to them. Yet, plot twist, they do come back to life. But that's a whole nother can of worms. Not really sure how that happened, though we do have our theories on it. But either way, the Loyal 3 did die. They canonically were murdered. Now we have a few unconfirmed cases of death, but cases where if you were to ask me, I'd tell you, yes, I think that person died. First off, we have Cyrus in Diamond Pearl, Platinum, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. Cyrus in this game eventually goes to his new world. He's able to create like a little portal, and he goes into it. Now, We don't know what's on the other side of that portal. We do not know what has happened here, so it's very possible that Cyrus just kind of went to, like, the back rooms or something and eventually died. But either way, in Platinum, we know that he went to the Distortion World, and I imagine that's a place that a human would not last very long in, certainly not on his own with no equipment. Cyrus was really unwise about this. But yeah, I don't buy that Cyrus is still alive. I definitely think he's dead. And that's where we get into our next case of someone that I think is dead, and that is Lysander, another Villainous team member. Lysander is caught in the explosion of the ultimate weapon, the destruction of the ultimate weapon, in the climax of the X and Y plot. And they basically say, yeah, we didn't find Lysander. And there is, of course, a rule across media of no body, no death. And I do think that this plot was supposed to be picked up in the X2, Y2 games that were scrapped. Very likely he would have come back then, very similar to how Getsus came back in Black 2 and Y2. But given that those games never happened, I'm going to say that, nope, Lysander's dead. If X2 and Y2 do come out in 3 or 4 years, I'll change my opinion on this. But until then, he was caught in an explosion and he died. He's dead. Bye, Lysander. Now, before we get into the last two, which are actually theories, we have an honorable mention from the anime, and that is Hunter J. So Hunter J was actually a really cool side villain throughout the Diamond and Pearl arc. Basically, she would steal Pokemon and, like, turn them to stone and then sell them to people. And she dies eventually. Her little jet that she had gets caught in a whirlpool. And so, you know, all her people are about to drown and all, and then it explodes. I don't know why it exploded, but it exploded. So she's very dead. Hunter J is dead. You can say no body, no death, but the fact of the matter is that she blew up. So, you know, there's no body because it was disintegrated. That's what happens to bodies when they blow up. They get disintegrated a lot of the time. Now, moving into our theories of deaths, we have Giovanni first up. And where this comes from is in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, there was this special event Celebi where you could travel back in time. And basically, you travel to the time of where Team Rocket has the Goldenrod radio tower and is radioing out trying to call back Giovanni. And you get put in the Tojo Falls where you find a little cave where Giovanni is listening to the radio. You battle him, and after that, you hear him leave the cave, and then you hear him jump into the water. And there are a lot of people that claim you can hear, like, a little bubbles noises. I didn't hear that. But either way, it was long speculated that Giovanni had died. He had committed suicide by jumping off the rocks into the water and drowning. Now, issue is, in Black 2 and White 2, you see Giovanni appear at the Pokemon World Tournament, implying that Giovanni is alive. However, then in the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you learn that basically every single Pokemon game could be an alternate timeline. And not only that, but every file that you play is an alternate timeline. So your Scarlet game is a different timeline from my Scarlet game, etc., etc. And so it's very possible that Black 2 and White 2 is in a different timeline from Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And so in the Heart Gold and Soul Silver timeline, yeah, Giovanni killed himself. And just in the Black 2 and White 2 one, Giovanni did not. Now, again, I hate when we have to do the argument of, but timelines. I don't like when you have to use that for a theory, but I did just want to mention that because that was a very widely believed thing for about 2 or 3 years in the Pokemon community, that Giovanni had killed himself. And then lastly, there's you. You died. You did. You died. Now, specifically, what we're talking about for this theory is that you may have died in Red and Blue, your character may have died, and then also in Black and White, your character may have died. First, we'll touch on Red and Blue. This comes from in Gold, Silver, Crystal, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver. You eventually battle Red, and then he just kind of disappears. And so there's some speculation that Red jumped off Mount Silver, and, you know, that would have resulted in his death. I'm not a believer in this one, but I wanted to touch on it because it is a common theory that's proposed. Again, you have to apply the Giovanni logic here. Red appears in Black 2 and White 2, and even in Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. So unless those are alternate timelines, no, he's fine. And then also there's just the fact that it doesn't make sense. Why would Red be beaten by some random nobody he doesn't know and then go, well, bye, and kill himself? That's kind of a weird reason. Like, you know, if he was defeated by Gary or something, if it was this pivotal moment, like maybe there was a lot of emotion weighing on that battle, I would be able to buy into it a little bit more, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that he just killed himself because Ethan beat him or Lyra beat him. I don't buy that at all. And then for Black and White, it is believed that the character that you play as may have died because in Black 2 and White 2, this hero is missing. He went looking for N, and N showed up. This character never did. So it's commonly thought that this character may have passed away. And, you know, maybe that's the case. There are a lot of theories about Unova games coming up at some point in the future, and if they decide to do a kind of sequel or continuation of the story, obviously you would have to have a way to get either Zekrom or Reshiram, and you can't because they're both accounted for, right? One player character, the player character from Black and White, has one of them, and then the character from Black 2 and White 2 has the other one of them because he's given it by N. Well, you can if you now say that the Black and White character, who, you know, was not confirmed to still be alive in Black 2 and White 2, if he or she is dead, well then in this hypothetical Black and White 3 game, there's a Zekrom or Reshiram that is unaccounted for, and that could be the one you get, the one from the original hero, which would be kind of cool, but also kind of sad to hear that, you know, the original character that you played as is now dead. But yeah, be sure to let me know what you think of these theories and of this list. Which death do you think is the saddest? And on the subject of Giovanni and Heart Gold Soul Silver, Red, the character from Black and White, and Lysander and Cyrus, do you think they're dead or not? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss all of our future videos. And until next time, I will see all of you later.